Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their successes and challenges, their backgrounds, and what's really driving them forwards. And today I'm delighted to have with us Antony Edmondson Bennett, who's the founder and owner at Rouute. So Antony, firstly, thank you so much for coming on board. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Rouute and what you do and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Chris, for having us. Yes, so Rouute Technology is founded in 2009, and the main goal from ourselves is, one, educating people that there's a different way of obviously providing and sourcing green energy and energy solutions. We've designed and have patents against a new green energy harvesting system. So that's basically uses compression-based technologies. You can embed our system in road infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure. In fact, we're speaking with a cattle market in the US to basically produce biofuels. So we say anything that can create a compression, we can basically get energy from. Now, our system in a nutshell, basically, obviously, as well as using compression, we've designed internally a regeneration system. So what happens then, our system will basically drop in efficiency from around about 95% efficient, which obviously if you compare that with solar and wind, we're double in efficiency. But also it basically starts generating on its own power, really. It's we've got auxiliary systems within there. That's under the patent side of things. That's the magic, I like to say. And it basically provides 70% of the actual power that we basically sell the system at. So for instance, 50 kilowatts, obviously, or 100 kilowatt, you got 70 kilowatt of power continuous. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't rely on obviously like solar and wind weather patterns, easy to deploy, very little maintenance at all. I say, just imagine a city that can power itself. Well, we've created a system that can do such. But the be all and end all of the goal of our company, and obviously the vision and the mission statement, we are a social impact brand, preliminary, sorry. So first instance, should I say. And that basically is, we've obviously been invited to like Collision in Vancouver, Lisbon, obviously in Portugal, but it's all about the give back. And we've still got in excess of 800 million people on the planet without direct access to power and energy. Yep. Also, let's go a bit closer to home, really, with that now. Now we're basically driving people into energy poverty within our own nation. So with that, we've obviously flipped a little bit internally. So we've got obviously our commercial system now out there. We've finalized the development. It's going into commercialization. We've got orders pending from the US and obviously the UK. And we've got trial systems out there at the moment, obviously doing the magic. That said, I've basically sort of diverted some attention into the domestic market, looking at how we then can help people, how we can obviously give a sustainable means of power and energy. Yeah. So people haven't got it, basically, Chris. It becomes a bit upsetting when obviously you see politicians beating that drum but don't actually do anything about it. Yeah. And to be perfectly frank, energy companies as they exist at the moment are not helping in any means neither. So we, as a innovative technology company, and that's what we will be, and we're always there to, and we will continue to innovate, is that we're there to give solutions and give back to obviously the general public, really, with a cost-effective solution that they can utilize at home or commercially, obviously commercial and businesses can use in a cost-effective way. The system does give a return on investment, we say within 2 to 3 years. It's actually far less than that, to be perfectly honest. So, wow. But let's not sell it like that. It's that'll be the I'd say the icing on the cake later on when the customer realizes I'm going to make it pay for itself in 9 months. So if you utilize the system as it should be, as a primary system, focusing really, you don't need to have mains available. It can run completely off grid. Yep. The only reason we have grid is obviously it's all about education, Chris. It's basically, and it's one goal of ours. If we can educate people there's a different way, then we've done a job. Right? There's a different way to source energy. If you compare that with, again, solar and wind, you look at the real estate required for solar and wind projects, even generating 50 kilowatts, You're looking at obviously solar around about 2 football fields, wind, obviously massive wind turbines. But again, it has direct impact onto the environments that they're in, on the ecosystems. Anyone who says that they don't, obviously they're in a different planet. It actually does, but ours don't. Our uses existing infrastructure, existing infrastructure with very little, say, civils or construction works required. It's just a plug and play. It's modularized, and like you say, we can expand that. We can go from a 50 kilowatt system or even a 10 kilowatt system now up to 2 meg, 3 meg, 4 meg. We can push it back onto the grid, so it creates an additional revenue for the end user. But also it assists, like we say, we're trying to establish with the government, it assists the government and the power companies out there with obviously a different source of energy generation into the grid. We can basically dump our energy in a matter of seconds if required, and we can generate our energy continuously without even any footfall or traffic movement. So it's
you have storage capacities, capability as well. Then is that?
Yeah. So basically, the Rouute technology system is a generator system. So it means of generating power. So we're not reinventing the wheel with regards to power storage or power distribution. That's getting done by thousands of companies out there. So we utilize what's already there. What we're saying, we can, like you would with solar wind, we generate that power, and then you've got the means. If you want to store that power, you can. We our 2 systems. We have an eGen, which goes up to 150 kilowatt storage capacity. And we have the E-Cube, which basically can go in excess of 2 megawatt, 3 megawatt if you wish. So yeah, that's what we've produced at the moment. We're looking at other applications as well. So with the technology itself, we're looking at obviously vehicles that can charge themselves in motion. Not like obviously the braking systems that you have there, but actually it regenerates the power in the batteries through an alternator system that we can provide, obviously, with our technology. So we're developing that at the moment. There's obviously lots of weird but wonderful ideas. Like I say, we'll always continue to innovate here at Rouute. So that's predominantly what we're here for.
It's fascinating. And obviously, forgive my ignorance, but compression technology in this space, is it anywhere or any time a person or a vehicle or an object passes over something and compresses it, you're generating power from that process? Is that my understanding?
So basically, in a nutshell, we mechanically store that energy, and it's not energy as such. It's without not going into the finite detail of it, obviously, because some of it's a bit secret. But it's it basically utilizes that energy that's being compressed. It stores it mechanically, and that mechanical storage then triggers what we say the secret source in the middle that then drives the alternator, and with that secret source comes the other system which allows it then to regenerate, so it can continuously to flow and move fluid through the system, because it's a hydraulic over electrical system, we can tell you that much. But if you ask academics out there, and I've had this heated discussion for the past probably 2 or 3 years, including Innovate UK recently, which once I got into the nitty gritty of it with them, the eureka moment came on. Like, oh my God, how come no one else has ever thought that? It's so simple, it's unbelievable. So I said, well, they have in a way. Everyone's failed. Hence why we've got the patents out there at the moment. Is we've succeeded, and there was a way around everything. I said, like I even explained to them. You look at the helicopter. The helicopter, realistically, if you use the laws of physics, should wind itself into the ground and not take off in the air. But that said, it takes off, doesn't it? So I'd say it's all about manipulating what's there, and that's all we've done, really. And it all started with myself on the M25 car park on the back of paper and a dictaphone in the car to give it like, why can't we do this? Really, it was a question rather than an answer at the time.
What was the spark? I mean, what was the spark? How did you come about the idea of doing it? I appreciate that. Then the how, but what sparked it?
I think generally for me, I've worked all over the world. I've worked in obviously third world countries as well, and I found it deplorable, really, that obviously, like I said before, you got 800 million people in excess of now without access to direct energy. But the other side of that, if you go to large inner city areas, third world nations, and even our own, there's one that you've got an abundance of, and that's people and traffic.
Yes.
But also, you got another abundance of is what CO2 emissions, carbon monoxide, other poisonous gases that are generated not only by the vehicles, but also by backup systems like generators and things like that, fossil fuel generators.
Yeah.
Now, our system will offset that or neutralize that altogether. Basically, one of our 50 kilowatt systems can basically neutralize 1.5 metric ton a day of carbon emissions. And oh, yes, we use vehicles to power, but take away the vehicle, you've still got a compression-based technology. I think you might imagine, I say full circular economy, you've got electric vehicle charging itself in a nutshell because you supplied the power. But from there, it was realistically, look, there must be something that we can do here, really. Well, where you don't have to rely on fossil fuel based generators, other means of systems out there, obviously, that generate even more, I'd say, environmental hazards. So driving, I know, ironically, driving from, I would lived in there down in Surrey at the time, or through to Heathrow. I was like the M&E lead for the IAG cargo system up at Heathrow Airport, and the driving, I was obviously stuck on M25. So while I was driving, I was thinking, I was just looking at the car tires really, and it would just like come into my head. Look, why on a dictaphone? Why can't we use the compression? Obviously, that idea, like I said, it has been around since millennia, so it's evolved. I started designing on the back of what I call it, back of the flag packet moment, you know, like that old school thing. A system that was more like a bellow that you got on the fire that compressed air and drove a little turbine at the end and created energy out there. And I went to then Innovate Design based in London back in 2019. Said, look, this is my idea. I'm going to clue out your designer. Can you do this? I've sketched a load of ideas. They pulled together the design. We went forward, pulled together the prototype, tested that. Don't get me wrong, it worked, but not. I wanted to really make a difference. Now, one kilowatt, half kilowatt here and there doesn't really make it. It's great, but it doesn't make a difference. Obviously, like the pave gen systems out there, obviously they're great for what data collection and other things and making people aware, but it doesn't generate meaningful sources of energy. Really, it's as simple as that. So I wanted a system that does. So the only way to do that was change I got the pneumatic-based system into a hydraulic system, something which is more efficient, has less failure points, and basically can give that extra oomph to obviously generate, but to actually move alternators. And we went through variable prototype 5 or 6. There was one called the Frankenstein, we nicknamed it. It was like a steel ramp in the ground. We had to cut bits of it, move bits around, but that actually proved the concept works. You know, after trial and error, we've used every alternator on the planet, from a normal vehicle mini alternator to a truck alternator to the variable wind alternators. You name it, we've used it. In fact, then we've just designed one with the suppliers to basically in line with what we require, and it's working extremely well actually. So that's perfect for us.
Absolutely amazing. So in terms of bringing it to market, I know you're obviously in process. What are some of the biggest issues you'd say you've had to overcome?
Oh God, there's excuse me, there's been many really, but I'd say like everyone else out there, obviously big large companies, one is funding is the first instance, how we fund obviously. So being a startup SME company, everyone knows you haven't got any form of credit or anything like that, so everything needs to be paid up front to manufacturers, to suppliers, things like this. So we have, like I think I mentioned earlier, we've got a full order book probably for the next 3 or 4 years, really, probably more. And they're coming in thick and fast. So like I say, we'll never be a manufacturing company. We'll always be an innovation in engineering. But that said, you still got to pay these people. So that's the first one, I'd say. Then you got the supply chain. So everyone knows with the pains of, I wouldn't say Brexit affected it too much, but I would say obviously COVID affected it a lot. But the supply chain is basically really fell apart over that period of innovation for us. So we basically went out picking scrap, whatever it was, to do what we needed to do. Really, you know, it was quite good. It was good times actually, because we found things that we never probably would have found if it never happened. So, well, yeah, the supply chain for us is a major factor. I think really, with regards to that, I think there's not enough emphasis from our government, really, with regards to supply chain, how we're going to basically cure that lack of flow into the country. I'll give you a rough example, basically, even from Europe. One of our alternators in Europe will cost you €17,000. Getting it from China, it cost me 3, and it's actually the same alternator. So exactly the same. They're just trying to sell it to us. So I'm like, really, we need to look at this a bit more in depth in the country. It's not technology that we can't provide ourselves in the United Kingdom. It's very simplistic, like alternators. We've been doing them for decades. Any hydraulic based systems, we've been doing that for centuries. So we invented them, for God's sake. So it's a case of let's start looking at the supply chain. But then with the supply chain, you then got the other side, which is the manufacturing. Really, it's obviously trying to get manufacturing partners who can basically ramp up to our requirement, who obviously want to partner with a startup is the main convincing point. I'd say we're trying to get past that hurdle at the moment. So we're saying, look, this is what we got. Can you do it? Yes, we can, but we really don't think that we want to be doing it with yourselves because it's a risk. It's a risk. I understand risk, but to me, there's no risk because the market's grown exponentially. We've got in excess of 3,000 units on the order book already. So it's a case of, look, let's really, and like I've always said, we are predominantly a social impact brand. So for me, it is about the brand. And I wish, from a point of view from the company, is that we saturate the market immediately. But a big thing for me, I'm ex-military. I'm ex-British Army. Personally, I was in the Army for 8 years. And to me, obviously, it gives me a great pride to be British, and the fact that we've created something that no one in the world has actually done. So really, we should be jumping all over it, really. But they're not. We're not. It's like we speak about innovation and obviously getting that, and what's the terminology? Build back better and all that great stuff. Any other pun you want to throw in the mix, but it's not happening. It's as simple as that, really. And I think, really, there's a lot more to do. It brings companies like ourselves to the point that, look, where are we getting the most attention? Where are we getting the most help? Who really wants to assist us? And it drags us to places like some of Europe, like Portugal, for instance, huge. They would actually pay us to be there. Then we've got the US in general, even though obviously their economy for green energy systems, there's trillions of dollars of funding there waiting to be had. Really, it's a market that we can capitalize on, and we have capitalized on it. But really, for me, I want to have that built in the UK stamp on our systems, designed and built here, manufactured here, and then distribute from United Kingdom, creating local jobs. And I don't think it's just like one or two here and there. This is thousands. And to be perfectly frank, Chris, it's you remember the .com boom. I remember that slightly as well. It's basically the new energy boom. And with that comes, I think it'll last 20, 30 years. And it won't, probably more, because we will continue to innovate, and we'll continue to innovate better, meaningful, more greener solutions.
Yeah, I mean, we're right in the middle of, as I think you said earlier, the energy crisis. So any form of cheap, effective new sources of energy has got to be something that people want to engage with. And that, not just the manufactured in the UK, but the generation is in the UK, which decouples us from the challenges of Russian gas, etc., even further, which has got to be a good thing.
No, it definitely is, really. Like I say, the current market's crying out for it, really. You look at to even meet the existing demand just for EV charging, EV vehicles. I think what they're saying is the national grid, with regards to investment, needs to invest in the next probably 1 to 2 years, £40 billion. Now, that to me, I think that's very low, really, for what they need to invest. Now, you look at that, we've decommissioned 2 nuclear power stations. We've got one underway at the moment, which is 18 months behind. It's going to be probably 3 or 4 years behind by the time we finish. That can basically generate probably, I think it's about 20%, correct me if I'm wrong, of the UK power. But with that, solar and wind can't bridge that gap. It's impossible. You can never do that. You'd run out to sea space and landscape. And I know like people like to look at this, oh, look, you can put this amount of solar panels in the middle of the Sahara Desert. and it could power the world. Well, you've got to service, maintain them. You've got to basically run that infrastructure from there. So our system is in a way that you are creating a localized hub, a power hub. So we can connect our systems in a network locally that allows you to power your facilities, power your city localized in the local area. And then if you do generate a lot more than what obviously you can use, then therefore power it back to the grid, give it back to the grid. But therefore it creates a revenue, not just locally, but nationally, and that we can then feed that back. And it's such a simple, easy, cost-effective way of doing things. To me, it's surprising really. I haven't jumped on it a lot quicker.
Excellent. Well, I can see how passionate you are about this, and it's great to see it here. And from a business perspective, what are some of the key things you've learned about business and in this journey as well?
Oh yeah, that's I'm from I call it dirty trade, so oil and gas, M&E. Really hands-on trade. But I was project manager, project director on multi-billion-pound projects, oil and gas projects, subsea in the world. But to me, it's like getting a project done is obviously the build, but actually running the business from obviously wearing variable hats. Obviously, we bootstrapped the business from day one. I funded the business, so obviously that was a lot of stress, I'd say, on us. It still is a little bit, but it was all funded by ourselves until we got obviously an investor, small investment come on in January this year. But obviously we've got a lot more interest since then. But yeah, it's really how you run a business, bootstrap a business to get that interest. I think is really the biggest thing and the biggest drive and factor for me is that I believe in the system. I believe that there was no other way. And even we've hit a lot of milestones, obviously, which have been good. And we've hit other things, brick walls, which have been bad. A lot of them is obviously you get a lot of naysayers out there, people who just don't get your idea, don't care about it, really don't want to help you, which is, it's all great. But now, obviously, that turns a complete 180 when you get into a position where we've got it to now. So, but generally speaking, yeah, it's beyond project management. It's people management as well. It's making it's broadening your network. I don't think I come off the phone before probably 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm speaking with variable, hopefully future customers around the world, contacts, obviously people in the system manufacturing from Singapore to South America to the other side of Australia. It has to be done, and I think really if you believe in something so passionately, I think you end up with about 2 hours sleep, I think, but you leave a job of 8 hours to work 18 hours, but it's that, and the fact I've got 4 children doesn't really help. 3 of them under 3, but I never get any sleep, to be honest. Even the sleep that I think I get, I don't really get. So, well, yeah, that said, I think it's really, you've got to get the right people, I think, around you. I think the people create the business. You've got to have that trust in people as well, which is difficult as well, especially if you're funding the business. Is you got to let go and rely on them really as well, which is quite difficult. But I think my military career helped me in that way really to set up I'd say an impactful team who can work together and gel together. And yeah, we've done quite well really on nothing. But like I say, we're on an accelerated growth path now. So the next stage for us is increasing the team of 10 to a team of 30 in the next 3 months. And then with that, obviously creating massive manufacturing potential within the region. Because like I say, we've got the orders, we've just got to meet them now. It's as simple as that, really. Wow. Yeah, it's been good. It's had its ups and downs, sleepless nights, but yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world, really.
Brilliant. And you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation. What keen to know who the best coaches are you ever worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general.
Yeah, I think about a few from obviously my military background. Yes. There's it's called Sir Mike Jackson now. I think you probably would have heard him. He's the NATO leader when we went into cover. I met him a few times. I think he was quite inspirational in the means and his mannerisms was quite straightforward, strict. But yeah, you'd probably follow him into a fire. He had that convincing sort of tone about him. So I think that to me, from a leadership point of view, that really stood out to me. Coming back into the civilian world, really, it was obviously difficult for myself. I never had work. I never had a job for a year. It was like basically I was doing anything. And I always remember one gentleman, his name was Martin Wilson. Unfortunately, he's died now, but he was a great impact to me. Really, he taught me about business in general.
Yeah.
He taught me, he taught me a hell of a lot. Excuse me.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. And did you, along this time, have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings that you use or fall back on at difficult times?
Yeah, I think no, not really. I think if I go into some of them, they probably won't be able to get aired. But it's no, I think generally, I always like the terminology though, like bootstrapping. There's another one, obviously, with the military, because obviously you know what people are like in general, and that's it. Is don't fly with the owls if you can't soar with the eagles. So that's basically, if you're going to stay up all night and can't come and do the work in the day, then don't bother turning up early. You've got to put 100% into everything. Brilliant. But then you've obviously got all the old cliche ones. But I think generally, it's me. It's all down to the nitty gritty of getting down and getting dirty and just basically gritting, biting your teeth and getting into it. Really, it's just it's not about how many.
No, that's all good. And what have you learned about yourself as you've developed and things have moved on?
I think I've learned a lot more to to control my stress levels. So my it's been very stressful to say the least. But you've got to basically take a step back now and again. But the other side of that, you do have to have that balance, because I believe you're going to work this hard and obviously this hard at something. There's got to be a reason why you're doing that. And obviously, I've got my family. Obviously, I care a lot about. Obviously, I love them more than anything. And you have to have that balance. I think that's the hardest part of obviously starting a business as well, is having that relationship between work and life. It's got to try and have that. And don't get me wrong, it's never enough impossible. But you've got to understand, and you've got to put it into your head that the sacrifices that you're making now, obviously, is for the benefit of a later date. And you've got to have buy-in. You've got to have a supportive partner. Like, obviously, my partner is amazing. She's looking after 4 children. She's 8 months pregnant. We got the 5th on the way, and she's like a machine, really. If I didn't have her by my side, I don't think I'd achieved half of what I've got to. So to me, and again, it's the old cliche, isn't it? You've got to have a strong, like, not just female, but partner behind you, really, obviously driving you and really believing in as much as what you're doing, because there is times where everything fails at the same time. You think if anything go wrong, you have that hole that you fall down to, and you just got to claw yourself back. And we've done that. We've done that as a team. We've done that as a family on several occasions. And I think now, with where we are now, there's actual light at the end of the tunnel. So it's all been worth it, really.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful to hear. Speaking of light at the end of the tunnel, what does your future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you face, if any?
Still a lot of challenges. I think we've basically signing various contracts now for trial systems to go out there. Like I say, it's key educational. We're in a key educational stage, should I say? And that's what I'll say. If we can take away anything, we're educating people. But because people don't understand what we're doing, they're not really convinced that I can do what it says it does on the tin. So therefore, it's an educational phase. So we put the trial systems out there. We've got case studies. We've got raw data, so we can see and come, touch, feel it, drive over it, do what you wish. We can show obviously the new, what we call, versions of each of the RBS, the role-based system, and the various E-Cube and everything else. But we're at that stage now. It's a brilliant stage to be at. I've always said we'll get to a position one day, and I have it in my head, that we will get to the page where we've got all these orders, we've got all this interest, and we can't supply against that. And I will not, as the owner of this business, and obviously the lead, is one, put out an inadequate product anyway, so that's why it's took so long to come to fruition. But also, we will not do it where we can just trickle feed the market. I don't see there's any point in trickle feed, because you're allowing, obviously everyone knows, you're allowing other countries, various countries around the world to copy, steal, and you've got to go down the realms of obviously patent infringements and things. Now, we don't want to get to that position because, like I say, our brand is everything to us. So if we saturate the market as much as we can, when you walk past these systems, you say, "Oh, have you got a Rouute?" Not a copy. It's like as if you got, for instance, a pair of Nike trainers rather than a pair of Dunlop. You know what I mean? You know the difference straight away. Yeah. And I say, look, you can have the same, but it'll never be a Rouute system. It'll never be a Rouute system. So in a nutshell, really, that's where we are at the moment. But again, it's the real difficulties for us is getting these manufacturing partners in position. We've moved locations now. At the moment, it's getting premises for ourselves. We're on a real aggressive recruitment drive. It's we're really on that accelerated growth path, but it's really having that support. So it's like every business, it's funding, production, manufacturing, distribution, everything comes at once. Really, like I say, the interest there, the orders are there. We just got to meet.
Brilliant.
Really.
Brilliant. And looking back, if you started again, is there anything that you'd do differently?
Yeah, I don't think we could, to be honest. You know, I wish we could. You know, so I wish we could have had a lot more. I'd say assistance in place. I've had various different people at an early stage than what I did in a later stage. But again, it all boiled down to the bootstrapping of the company. It was all down to funding, to managing that funding, to obviously create. So all the creation fell on myself. Everything. It was like it was a one-man band, really, wasn't it? Yeah. But I was lucky out there. We had access to various design houses and things like that. But again, it was long nights drawn up. But yeah, I don't think we could change it unless it's with a new product and you've already got an established company. So easy to do, and that's why I say we'll never stop innovation because it's going to be so easy for us in the future to develop the products. But yeah, I don't think we could have changed anything really. We've done everything that we could. We've grasped at every opportunity that we could. So it's really done what we could, really. Yes.
No, absolutely brilliant. And finally, just an interesting one. But what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and speak to yourself, Antony?
18-year-old me, I think really is. I think there's not enough education for me in business and how you manage funding, economics, for instance, things like that. So really dive into that nitty-gritty of starting. And I think it was, to me, start earlier. I was 40. 40 years of age when I started this business. So don't get me wrong, the idea has been in my brain for a while, but it was having that confidence really. And it was, you probably know what it's like. You start a family, you get caught in the rat race, and you got bills, you got mortgages, everything. And I've still got all of them worries, don't get me wrong. And he existed, but it came to a time I just went, right, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And really? It was the risk. You've got to take risks, but I used to take risks through probably my life, but I never took risks with financially when I was. And I think at that age, with no real commitments, I'd say start now, do it now, do it as early as you can. Universities, things like that can wait, but do it as soon as if you've got an idea and you think it's going to work, just jump head on in because you're not going to lose anything at that age, really.
Brilliant, very sound advice. Absolutely, it's a lot easier to take risks, isn't it? The younger we are, the earlier we start, it just feels, I guess, the challenges, the knowledge, and those sorts of things. Well, look, been absolutely fascinating, and really wish you the best of luck with the next stages, the next levels. And clearly, what you do, we need. So, really wish you the best of luck. It'd be great to maybe catch up with you in another 6-12 months and just see how things have developed for you guys at Rouute Technologies.
No, that'll be excellent. I hope you actually see us before that anyway. So it'll be really good. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Chris.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.